Hello everyone, how are you again? Inshallah, today we will start a new topic which is about using, or let's say, the language that we use in presentations. Of course, I believe in your future jobs you will be asked to do, let's say, some presentation or handle a meeting with either your colleagues or your, let's say, other companies similar to your company, or attend the training, etc. So you will be asked to do some presentations, let's say give a feedback about a product or something. In other words, you will be standing in front of another group of people talking to them about a certain topic. And this topic could be a new product, it could be a new idea, a new plan, whatever could be like included in your work, let's say. So in this case, there are not, let's say, not certain words, but there are words that look professional, helps you, let's say, transfer the idea or what you want to say to the listeners, readers, viewers, the one who is attending the meeting or the presentation or the training. So let's say you want to make a presentation or you want to present a presentation. How do you start? What do you say in the middle? How do you end your presentation? What kind of, let's say, words or terms do you include? Do you use the same terms every time? Or do you use, let's say, other terms? For example, do you say always, let's say, do you say always like in the beginning, in the beginning, in the beginning, in the beginning? Or you say, for example, in the beginning, at start, in, let's say, to commence with. All these words mean start. So we will talk about these terms, what terms we need to include in our presentation, and also we need to, let's say, think of an introduction to our presentation. This introduction could be a short story, something funny, funny incident you have faced. There are many ideas for this. Okay? Now let's look at the PowerPoint presentation for this lesson and talk about this topic in depth, inshallah. Now we will talk in depth about useful phrases for presentations. And by phrases I mean collocations of words, words that come together, okay? Not only one word, usually a couple of words, we call them a phrase. It's not a sentence, it's not a word. Okay, now, if you look at the first or second slide, these are, let's say, the most used phrases to welcoming your audience. You are about to start. Of course, you don't go directly to the topic or the subject you want to talk about. You want to welcome them. Before welcoming them, you need to take, or let's say, take into consideration the gender of the audience, males or females, males and females, the ages also. Are they teenagers, adults, married, okay, let's say older people. So all of this you need to know before the presentation, okay? Because for each group, or let's say age group of people or audience, they have, let's say, some specific terms. So for example, what you can do with someone who is 20, you cannot tell to someone who is in 50 or 60, okay? So you need to be, let's say, careful and selective about the words that you want to use or can use, okay? Now, look at the ways to welcome your audience. For example, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Usually start with ladies, then gentlemen, okay? It's more, let's say, more professional and more appropriate. And it's more nicer actually. You can say hello, hi everyone. Now, for example, if your audience are young, you can start with hello, hi everyone. But if they are, let's say, 60, 65, managers, COOs, people who are wearing suits, so it's very formal, you can say hello, hi, okay? You start formal. Good afternoon, good evening, depend on the time, of course. Now, you can also use words like first of all. You can start by thanking them, which is a very nice, I like to use this one. Let me thank you all for coming here today. So you start with thanking them, with appreciating them, okay? So this is also, you call it a catchy phrase. It catches their attention, okay? So they focus with you from the first, of the very beginning of the presentation. Why? Because you are thanking them. You are showing them how important are they to you, to the presentation, to the meeting, to whatever the, let's say, the assembly for. So let me thank you all for coming here today. Also, you can say, I am happy, I am glad, I am delighted that so many of you could make it today. This is like to, you use it to, let's say, be proud of the number that attended. Maybe you were expecting 5 or 10 people and you were, let's say, faced by 20 or 23 or 30. So you telling them that I am delighted that so many of you could come here today. Also, it's a pleasure. Try to use this word often. It's a pleasure, my pleasure. When someone, for example, says thank you, says my pleasure, okay? It's nicer than welcome. So it's a pleasure to welcome you here today. It's good to see you all here today. So as you see, all these words are used to welcome or catch the attention of your audience, okay? Now, after you welcome them, start by presenting or talking about yourself. Who are you? Okay? Don't go right away talking about the topic because not everyone knows you. Okay? So it's nice to say, for example, on behalf of my company, on behalf of let's say the management team, on behalf of the IT team, or on behalf of the maintenance team, depend like what team you are following. May I welcome you to this meeting. My name is Akram and I'm responsible for this meeting. I will be the, let's say, the in charge of this meeting. I will lead this meeting. You can say, let me introduce myself. My name is, or I am is, or if you are familiar with everyone, hello everyone, you remember me, I am Akram. Try to, let's say, be more flexible. Try to smile. Show them that you are confident, okay? Don't like stumble, like for example, hi, hello, hi, I am Akram. Today I will talk. This is not professional, okay? Make sure that you read your presentation, your papers are ready, everything is at hand, okay? And start by like following a sequence, a certain sequence, certain steps, okay? Don't try, let's say, to jump from one point to another. No, try to be like following, like you are doing, let's say, you are cooking, okay? You can't put like, for example, meat before soup. You have to prepare the soup, then the meat, then the rice, etc. So the same thing for the presentation, okay? Start by welcoming them, presenting yourself, then what you are going to talk about, okay? And make sure that you have the slides ready, let's say the PowerPoint presentation or whatever tool you are using for it. There are like now hundreds of tools. Anyways, so make sure that your presentation is ready. Also make sure the handouts, for example, papers printed that contain the material you are talking about. And allow me to ask you, why do you think it is important to have the material that you want to talk about, or you want to explain, or you want to offer, or you want to show printed or shared in a way or in another? You can either print it or send it by, let's say, by email, electronically to your audience. Why do you think it is important? I want you to write one sentence. Why is it important to give credit, or let's say give the material you are talking about to your audience before, let's say, the meeting, or at least at the same time of the meeting, or telling them by the end of the meeting you will have the material sent to your WhatsApp, for example, or I will be sending the material to your emails. Please write your emails down and I will send you everything that you will see today. I will give you like a minute to write a sentence, like a small answer about it, short answer, then we will continue again. Nice to be with you again. Hope you wrote some answers. Now the answer that I'm looking for is, you want your audience to be focused with you, okay? So when you offer them the material or the printed material, or give them the summary about the material, they will give you more attention, okay? So that's why we provide people with the material for the presentation, okay? So you can grasp their attention. You don't want to talk to people who are just writing notes, taking notes, because they want to follow up, okay? So you are talking to people and all of them like this. So they are not paying attention to you, okay? So try to minimize the time that they may use to be away from you, okay? If you want to catch their attention, so one of the ways are to give them the material, okay? Or let's say a summary of the material at least. Now, you need to explain to the audience why this topic that you want to present is related to them. So you use phrases like this. My purpose today is. Today I'd like to give you a general overview of. Today I'm going to bring you up to date, okay? What I'm going to do today is review. Notice the verbs. Give you a general overview, bring you up to date, review, okay? The reason we are here today is today's topic of particular interest to those of you who are in that department or in so and so department. Or the topic is very important to you because, or for you because. By the end of this talk, this is very important, you will be familiar with the new, let's say, system, with the new, let's say, product, with the new method that you are going to follow. So these words gives the audience an idea about why is it useful, why is it important for them to be in this particular meeting or a presentation, or why they are attending, okay? So you need to give them, let's say, an idea. You need to give them a link. What is happening, okay? Why are you doing this? Why is it important to them? So you use these phrases. Now, you jump to the topic itself. So you start to be, let's say, more specific now, okay? So, for example, I'll go through the phrases. I'm going to develop 3 main points. You see, Now you are going very like in depth. Now you started with the name or why is it important. Now you are saying how many points you are going to say. Okay, so you are saying I'm going to develop 3 main points and look at the sequence: first, second, third. Okay, for example, I want to talk about the 3 ways why or 3 important tips about the new product. It's faster. Firstly, it's faster. Secondly, it's cheaper. Thirdly, it's stronger, for example. Okay, so you are giving or saying the most important points. So use this, the main 3 points: first, second, third. Another way, I have divided قسمت my presentation into 3 main points. This is another way, of course. Okay, I would like to begin with instead of saying firstly. So I'll be addressing 3 main points, and the first point is going to be, okay, if you notice the first 3 lines, they are paraphrasing. I'm just repeating myself in other words. Okay, so this helps you to use as much as phrases in your presentations. Make it look very professional. Don't stuck to some like certain sentences and just keep repeating them. No. So once say I'm going to develop, the next presentation say I have divided my presentation. Another presentation say I'll be addressing 3 main points. Use first, second, third. I would like to begin with my first point is. So this is adds let's say a variety to your way of speak, and the audience still enjoy your presentations or your talk. Another way, second point will be, and finally the last point. You can say finally or the last point. I am going to outline 3 proposals. Look, firstly I'll, then I'd like to, and finally. Okay, so all of them are still, we are paraphrasing the sentence to tell what is the topic. Also we can use the subject, or the topic of my presentation is the new antivirus, the new product, the new, let's say, car model, whatever. I am here today to present the new prototype or stereotype for the robot that we have made. Today I'm going to talk about a very important, let's say, product of our company. Okay, so try to catch their attention. Try to use as much as you can from these phrases. Of course, there are plenty of other phrases. Here I tried, let's say, to combine the most useful and the most direct ones, because people, they don't like to be, let's say, feel uncertain. They want direct information, so they want words that tells them that there are information ahead. Okay, so this is about saying the topic. So far we talked about welcoming the audience, introducing yourself, explaining why your topic is relevant to the audience, why is it important, and saying what is the topic is. Okay, now you want to address your audience needs. Okay, of course your audience have needs. These needs could be physical, could be emotional, could be something tangible تقدر تحسه, or untangible. Okay, now we will go through the phrases, then we will talk about it. So for example, I'll pass around copies of my slides so you can make notes as I go through the presentation. So the first need here is that they need the presentation. So you are telling them, I'll give it to you. You will be able to have it with you. You will be able to do what? To read it or make notes. So you are going to have, what are you going to see or what I'm going to talk about. Okay, so here you are taking, let's say, you are giving them a need, but also it's a need for you, because you need them to focus. So you are helping them focus. Also, the presentation should last about 5 minutes. Here you are telling them the time. Okay, so what they are expecting that you will say whatever you want to say in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So again, you give them the abstract material, the paper to read from. You told them the time, okay? Should last about 5 minutes. We'll take a short coffee break at about 10:30. So this is also, if the presentation or the meeting is like for 3, 4, 5 hours, you are telling them the times that they can be off the meeting. For example, let's say the meeting is from 8 to 12. So you're telling them, we will have a coffee break around 10:30. You will have lunch at 12. You will have a short break, for example, at 9. You will have another short break at 11. So you are giving them the times that they can be free from the meeting, okay? Because of course, some may have phone calls, some may need to go to the bathroom, some may need to go drink something or eat something, okay? So this sentence helps them understand when they can leave, when they should come back. Also, you can tell them, if you have any questions, I'd be grateful if you could leave them until the end, okay? So now you are telling them, of course, I know that you will have questions, so just keep these questions till the end, because some people may, let's say, interrupt you. So again, you are telling them their needs, which is your need at the same time, because you need them to focus. So you are telling them, in order to focus, leave the questions till the end, take the coffee break at this time, you will have copies, this presentation will last for so and so. Now, another phrase, I am happy to take any questions after that, okay? So after some certain times, I will answer all your questions. We can take 2 or 3 questions at the end of each point. Here you are specifying that at some certain time, you will allow them to ask 2, 3, 4 questions, okay? Please feel free to interrupt me at any time if you have a question. Now, personally, I don't like to be interrupted, okay? But if you are okay with being interrupted, if the topic allows you to be interrupted يعني تقاطع, okay? Someone يقاطعك, يعني يقاطعك بالكلام. So, maybe the topic itself is like needs a dialogue, a conversation. نفس الحوار أو الموضوع بده حوار, بده مناقشة, okay? So you're telling them, you can interrupt me, ask questions, add something, add some information, okay? So depends on the topic. Some topics you can't like be interrupted. For example, you are talking about some security measures or a new rule, for example, okay? Or let's say something important, and you don't want, let's say, people like to get confused, okay? So if it's okay or not okay, you can just be nice and telling them, please leave the questions till the end of each point. Please leave the questions till the end of the presentation, and I'll be happy to answer them. If you are okay, as we said, please feel free to interrupt me. Now, where do you think the importance of any presentation lies? Is it the beginning? Is it the middle of the presentation? Or it's the end? I want you to think about it for a minute. Again, which is more important? The beginning of the presentation, the middle of the presentation, or the end of the presentation? I need you to take a minute, okay? Stop the video, pause the video, write a simple sentence, a short sentence, like few words. Why do you think? Which part is more important and why? So which part is important? Is it first, second, or first, let's say, the beginning, or the middle, or the end? And why? Okay? I'll talk about it, okay, later, and check your answers. Are we on the same page, or did you think of something else? I'll be happy to know your answers later, maybe, inshallah, you'll have this chance. But please write the answer down and compare your answer to my answer, okay? We will back to this. So again, which one do you think is more important, beginning or middle or at the end? Personally, I think the beginning and the end are most important, okay? Because psychologically, if a person watches a movie or a play or a football match, he remembers let's say the few first minutes and the last few minutes, okay? What happens in the middle usually gets lost. So you need to be careful about this. So focus at the beginning. At the middle, try to make it more fun or more catchy, so people focus more and remember it more. So you have to do extra effort in the middle, okay? You have to keep, let's say, repeating the most important points, okay? Try to use redundancy, tikrar, drilling, tikrar, okay? Try to give like more than one example. Give them more examples, okay? Now, how do you catch your audience attentions, okay? Of course, there are some, let's say, techniques or methods or ways to make your audience interested in what you are going to say. Make them, let's say, start thinking, oh, I need to focus. There is something nice coming, okay? There is something useful coming. Now, one of the ways is ask a rhetorical question. What do you mean by this? Or what do you mean by this? A rhetorical question هو سؤال بلاغي, okay? Usually a question that you cannot answer easily, okay? A question that needs, let's say, a long answer, and it has many ways to be answered, okay? يعني زي ما بيحكوا افقع فتاشة, okay? Ask something strange or something that no one can answer in very short time. For example, is market research important for brand development? Okay, so these questions, if you think of it. Market research, بحث السوق, أدرس السوق. Is it important to develop my brand? هل هو مهم عشان أطور البراند تاعي؟ Of course it is, but how do you answer this? You need days and nights, like long speeches to answer this. So here you grab their attention, so they know that you are serious, okay? For example, another rhetorical question. Do we really need quality assurance? So no one can say no, of course, and it will make them think, what is this guy talking about? Of course we need quality assurance. How do we make sure our product is, like, let's say, up to the standard? How do we make sure that we are doing right in the market? How do we make sure that we are progressing? So this is a rhetorical question, a question that you don't want an answer, okay? You don't have time for their answer, but you want to catch their attention and make them think of the answer and think of why did you ask this question. So now you are not controlling them. Now you are, let's say, winging them, okay? You are covering them with your representation. You are grabbing their attention. Their minds are for you now. So the first way to grab their attention or to grasp their attention, or how to make them, let's say, follow your lead, is ask a rhetorical question. اسأل سؤال بلاغي, سؤال فيه فلسفة. Now, another way is tell them a story or anecdote. anecdote أو story اللي هي short story. It could be some wisdom, حكمة, something funny that happened to you, okay. For example مثلا والله a certain joke, something happened with you in your way coming to the, let's say, the meeting, okay. For example والله I was coming and I took a wrong turn over and I had to go again and I did it again and I met the same cab, blah blah blah. So this short story could be, or anecdote, should be like 1 or 2 minutes maximum. I suggest that you make it funny and real, okay? So you remember something that really happened with you. For example, the famous one اللي هي والله رحت على مطعم في فرنسا وأشرت على الشوربة وطلعت لي عدس, okay? So use things like this, okay? هذا اللي بنسميه short story أو anecdote. يعني أنت you are telling them something not embarrassing. It could be something beautiful, something nice that happened with you. For example, والله when I was in Riyadh, there was a man sitting next to me and I found out he's a famous football player and I didn't know that. إنه والله أنا كنت في الطيارة وجنبي طلع لاعب كرة مشهور وأنا مش عارف إنه هو مشهور. Okay, so try to use this short story or let's say the strategy for this يعني. يا اما ask a rhetorical question or tell them a story. You can also, let's say, another way is start with an interesting fact. Start with an interesting fact. يعني مثلا usually people are, let's say, love animals, okay? So maybe you start with the fact about pandas or lions. For example, do you know that all pandas in the world are owned by China? And what do you see in the other countries other than China is a rented panda? For example, you can start by a very interesting idea about the market, okay, or the product that you are selling or you want to talk about. Do you know that, for example, we have another 20 competitors, or there are, let's say, 20 similar products to our product in the market, okay? For example, let's say the internet companies. We have Zain, Orange, Mada, Damamax, Omnia, etc. Okay? For example, you say, do you know that we have, let's say, 5 rivals, 10 rivals, منافسين, okay? Anyway, you can talk about percentages also. Do you know that people now are paying attention to cyber security, or people are starting to use original, let's say, applications. People start, let's say, to invest 10% of their salary in buying new technology. So start with a fact that grasp the attention of your audience, okay? Now, another way also is give them a problem to think about. What do you mean by this? For example, look at the example here. Suppose you wanted to set up a new call center. How would you go about it? So you ask them about a new idea, a new project, for example, and give them like 3-4 minutes to think about the most important things to include in this project. Another way, for example, imagine you had to recognize the sales department. What would be your first step? How would you get this info? What are the ways to get this info? Okay, so far we talked about some ways to grab people attention at the beginning of the presentation. Number 1, ask a rhetorical question. Number 2, tell them a story or anecdote. Number 3, start with an interesting fact. And lastly, give them a problem to talk or to think about, okay? So these are 4 ways to grab the attention of your audience. Now, we'll talk about some signposts, which are phrases to organize your presentation. For example, when you want to tell them about something is coming or what you are going to say next, you use words like, in this part of my presentation, I'd like to talk about. So, in this part of my presentation, I'd like to talk about. So, another way, let me give you a brief overview. Let me give you a brief overview. So, these two phrases help you talk about, or let's say pave the way, تمهد الطريق to what are you going to talk about. So in this part of my presentation I'd like to talk about, or so let me give you a brief overview. Now if you want to summarize a point, okay, so when you want to summarize a point, okay, use words like, before I move on, I'd like to recap the main points, okay? Let me briefly summarize the main issues. Let me briefly summarize the main issues. I'd like to summarize what I've said so far. I'd like to summarize what I've said so far. So, that's the general picture for. So, that's the general picture for. I'd like to conclude this point by saying, so we've looked at that completes my overview of, okay? So all these phrases, we use them to summarize what we were talking about, okay? We use them to summarize what we were talking about. And these phrases help our audience stay focused, because when you give them a lot of information, okay, you need to keep summarizing, you need to keep them focused, okay? It's like a teacher in a school. You can't like give all the information for the students. You need after each law or rule to ask some questions to keep the audience, the learners interested, and at the same time realizing what they are listening or studying or being presented to, okay? Now, if you want to, let's say, indicate the end of a session or make the audience know that you, or let's say this part of the presentation is over and you want to move to another part, you can say phrases like, this brings me to the end of my first point. This brings me to the end of my first point. Or, that's all I want to say about this point, okay? Or this is, let's say for example, I'll stop here and move to the next point. Or I will not talk much or more about the first point. So in this case, you are telling them that you are making a progress, that you have finished the first part, for example, and you are moving to another part, okay? So, this brings me to the end of my first point. That's all I want to say about this point, so and so. Now, you want to move to the next point. You have talked about a certain topic, and now you want to, let's say, not transfer or change. You want to go from point A to point B, from point 1 to point 2. Use these phrases, like when you want to, let's say, relate or join, okay? You want to join the first one to the second one. So you can use words like, this leads directly to my next point. This leads directly to my next point. This brings us to the next question. This brings us to the next question. You are including them here because you are using the pronoun us. Let's now move on. Let's now turn to, okay? Let's now take a look at the second point, for example. My next point is, okay? So as you notice, all these words ends, or these phrases, sorry, ends the first part and begins the new part, Now, if you want to, and you will, refer back to something you have mentioned, okay? Something you have talked, for example, at the beginning of the presentation. What words or phrases do you say? Or do you say, sorry? You say, for example, as I said, or as I mentioned earlier, okay? So you are telling them that you have already said that. You already mentioned that. Or let's go back to what we were discussing earlier. So you are taking them back again to the beginning. As I've already explained, okay? As I pointed out in the first section. So look, mentioned, go back, discussing areas, already explained, pointed out. All of these verbs we use to refer back to something that we have already mentioned. Now, if I want to add ideas, how do I, or what do I do? Look here at the examples. For example, in addition to this, I'd like to say that. In addition, بالإضافة, I'd like to say that. Also, you can use adverbs like moreover or furthermore, okay? Moreover or furthermore. Of course, there are a lot of adverbs you can use. If you can refer back to the types of sentences, you can see many adding ideas, subordinate adverbs. You can use them. Anyways, for example, furthermore, there are some interesting facts that we should take a look at, okay? So now you see the benefit of studying coordinating conjunctions and subordinate conjunctions, because we need them in our writing, in our speaking, presenting. Now we are, like, say, in a professional level, so you need to start using these words. So for adding ideas, I give you like 10 maybe, start using them, okay? Now, if you want to talk about something difficult or something that, let's say, needs time, okay? You use words like, I think we first need to identify the problem, okay? I think we first need to identify the problem. Of course, we'll have to clarify a few points before we start. We will have to deal with the problem of. If we don't solve the problem, we'll get, okay? Or we will run into serious trouble soon. We are currently having difficulties with. So here, if you notice the adverbs, or the verbs that we have used, they all presenting not danger, but referring to a problem, okay? We need to identify the problem, clarify a few points, deal with the problem, solve the problem, run into serious trouble, having difficulties. So all these tells the audience that we are having a major issue and we need to address it. We need to talk about it. We need to discuss it, okay? Now also, if you want to introduce a visual, what do you mean by a visual? Visual is something they can see, like an image, video or whatever. So you use these words. Let's now look at the next slide, which shows, okay? To illustrate this, let's have a closer look at the chart on the following slide. Shows according to this graph, you can see the test results in this table. As you see, all these words or verbs we use to tell the audience that we are going to show them something new. Okay? So, now look, illustrate the chart on the following, according to, this is a very nice word, I like it. You can see the test results also. I love the simplicity, and you can see results. For example, you can say also, let's say, statistics, ideas, etc. Now, if you want to explain this visual, now you have introduced it to them, the first 5 phrases. Now you want to explain it. Use words like, first, let me quickly explain the graph. This is very direct. You can see that different colors have been used to indicate. You explain why they have like red, blue, yellow. For example, red is for the results, yellow is for the pending orders, blue is for the something, let's say, under maintenance, for example, something in red for something short or whatever. Okay, so you explain for them why are you using colors. Okay, so again, you can see that different colors have been used to indicate, and you tell them what do they indicate. The biggest segment indicates. Notice here we are talking about a graph or a pie chart اللي هو مخطط أو رسم بياني أو رسم توضيحي. So you wanna like read it them for them, okay? Talk about it to them, tell them, okay? So you can say also the biggest segment اللي هو الجزء الأكبر. Sorry. Also, you can say, for example, if you look at the top right corner, at the bottom of the left corner, at the middle, at the first point, second point, etc. Try to use your hands when you're saying this. Also, you can say the blue dotted line represents. For example, there are dotted lines, blue dotted lines. What do they refer to? Do they refer to something similar? Do they refer to continuity? Do they refer to something opposite? So you have to explain. Also, for example, the top half shows, okay, the down half shows. Also, you can talk about the figures in this table show. So again, you introduce the visual, you explain the visual, okay? Now, if you want to highlight some information, you can say, I'd like to stress, or I'd like to highlight, or I'd like to emphasize. Notice the use of verbs here. I'd like to stress, highlight, emphasize the following points. Also, you can say, I'd like to start by drawing your attention to. Okay, so if you want to highlight information, use verbs like I'd like to stress, highlight, or emphasize. Now, for example, you can also say, I'd like to start by drawing your attention. Okay, you also can say, let me point out that. I'd like to focus your attention on. What's really important here is, let's look more closely at. It is important to notice that. I'd like to concentrate on this. If you look at the verbs here, stress, highlight, emphasize, start by, point out, focus, really important, look more closely, important to notice, concentrate. They are all verbs that are used to grab the attention and show the audience that this is something important, something they need to focus on, okay? Now, how do you end your presentation? How do you end your presentation? For example, you can say, so that brings me to the end of my presentation, or so that completes our presentation. As a final point, I'd like to, okay? Finally, at the end, at last, okay? You can use any word that signals that you have finished or almost finished. Also, when you want to give a conclusion, like a brief summary about everything. So for example, I'd like to conclude by strongly recommending. You are giving them something extra to work on, something to build on, okay? Something to take what they have learned from you and improve it or build on it, okay? To conclude, I'd like to leave you with the following thought. In conclusion, I'd like to leave you with the following idea. Now, also, if you want to, let's say, make a final statement or a final idea, you say, thank you for your attention, thank you for listening. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer them. And now I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation. Please feel free to ask me any questions, okay? So all of these helps you to, let's say, deliver a comfy presentation, a presentation that grabs the attention. Please go through it again and again. Try to write down the sentences, try starting using them, and hopefully they will be very useful to you. This is the end of our series of 3 lessons about how to, let's say, not how to, about useful presentations or phrases for presentations. As again, watch them again and again, and see you in the next videos, inshallah.